The sequel is every unfunny 90s action movie that you can imagine shoved into the Predator license. Like, imagine Lethal Weapon 4 combined with Predator. That is what this movie is. Unfunny. And it practically ruins anything good Predator did. You're trying to manage your stress, I recommend tire flips. Don't go for a walk. Don't do yoga. Don't do anything. Tire flips. Now, I wasn't kidding when I said it's basically the plot of a Lethal Weapon movie, considering not just because it has Danny Glover in it, but it also takes a story with a simple. It also takes a simple story about mercenaries who go to extract friendly soldiers behind enemy lines, and then things go wrong when they start getting hunted by the titular predator. Simple enough, right? In this movie, we got LA cops, but in this movie, we got LA cops dealing with crime and shit. When another predator comes down, let me try that again. When another predator comes down to do predator shit, so the army gets involved to cover it up, as the army usually does, because apparently not only was the first movie covered up, so if it wasn't already obvious, this movie story is killed by unnecessary complexity that the first film just didn't need. It was a survival horror action movie. It stayed a survival horror action movie. The bad parts of this movie don't even stop there, because we haven't gotten to the characters. You know, there is one thing about tire flips that does kind of annoy me a little bit. Is that tires don't really have weight stamped on them. I mean, you can kind of guess it by like, oh, this tire is a particular size, so and that size weighs whatever amount. But like, I mean, I guess that's maybe a 500 or 600 pound tire, but how am I to know? It's one of the great mysteries of the majestic tire flip. If a documentary about tire flips is not made by David Attenborough sometime in the near future, I'm going to complain. I don't know who I'm going to complain to, but I'm going to complain. You know, when you're talking about characters in the original Predator, you're talking about characters that are admittedly simple, but they're effective and, more importantly, iconic. I mean, Dutch, Billy, Blaine, Mac, Poncho, Hawkins, they're all distinct and memorable in their own different ways. I mean, you got the leader, the macho tough guy, the psycho, the guy who's super paranoid about everything, the two nerds, the CIA spy asshole. It's all great. Whereas this piece of garbage has Murtaugh and Gary Busey and a bunch of other assholes who are not only not funny, but get killed off or kicked out of the story in unsatisfying conclusions anyway, so who cares? Oh, and let's not forget Bill Paxton. Yeah. No disrespect to the deceased, but I don't like Bill Paxton. I don't like his acting. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but come on, all of his characters are just smarmy and obnoxious, dude. He was good in True Lies, but other than that, nothing. And they gave him the big knife scene. Just come on, man. You know, it is remarkable. I mentioned in the last review that Arnold was the only decent actor in the movie. This is somehow stranger in that they don't have Arnold to compare themselves to, and yet everyone is doing a worse job. Again, everyone's trying to be funny like a Lethal Weapon movie, but simultaneously they're trying to act badass scared guys like in Predator. It's really odd that without Arnold to compare it to, these people are somehow worse. I know that didn't make any sense, but this movie makes no sense. Danny Glover being replaced. Since Danny Glover is the only real character in this movie, I guess we'll compare him. He is not the epitome of all badassness that Arnold is. So having him as a replacement is just insulting. He's playing the usual old guy that's in way over his head. Like again, in Lethal Weapon. And I like Lethal Weapon, but this is a Predator movie. I want badasses to go up against the ultimate monster. And again, I like Gary Busey. Fine enough. But I don't want to see his character from Lethal Weapon in this movie. This movie doesn't need a villain. The goddamn Predator is the villain. What's wrong with that? This movie's also not scary. And that was the best part of the original. Proper horror requires build-up of tension and then release of that horror. And the original, as you may have guessed, has this in spades. All we see in the beginning is bodies skinned alive, left in the predator's wake. So we know what the monster does before we ever see him. All we see is his POV with his thermal vision. In this movie, we see the predator right away in the first act. And then we have to focus on murders, cops, dumb one-liners, an army cover-up, and boom, we're off to the races. So obviously there's no horror to speak of, but then you might say, what about the action? It's a million times worse. Because this movie was set, or rather filmed in the 90s, they make use of everyone's favorite action movie cliche, shaky cam. Not a good kind of shaky cam. Not a good kind of shaky cam where it looks accidental and gives the movie a little bit of character. No, this is bad intentional shaky cam to make the movie seem chaotic and crazy. Do I even have to explain what is wrong with that? Look, you all know what's wrong with shaky cam. You all know why it sucks. I'm not going to elaborate. Just know they use it everywhere in this movie. And look, the reason I always bring up cinematography as a criticism in movies which you might reasonably say don't usually deserve it is partly because of this movie. You see, there was one shot in Predator that's always kind of stuck with me. It's when Arnold realizes that they're not being targeted by an enemy force, they're actually being hunted by something. I don't know what the shot is called, but there's like at that moment, the camera not only pans right, tilts up, elevates down, they also throw a dolly zoom in there. It's a panning, tilting, elevating dolly zoom. I don't know what that shot is called. I'm sure there's a proper name for it. But that shot, it's always stuck with me, you know? Because, like, that moment in the film is supposed to build up a creepiness factor and really establish that we're in a straight up horror film now. Because before that, it was kind of generic action movie. Now, at this point, they're really building up like, no, something's seriously wrong, and you should be creeped out. And that's what I thought watching this movie. The filmmakers and cinematographers are so deliberate and so wise in their technique that they managed to really kind of creep you out and make the badass characters, Arnold and his crew, it scared them. It kind of scared me too. I was like, what the heck? What the hell? What's gonna happen? It was very effective, and that shot has always kind of stuck with me, And the rest of the cinematography is all, spot on. But that shot in particular, I don't know what it is. It's the kind of thing that makes you go, wow, film is pretty damn awesome. There is not a shot like that in this movie, in Predator 2. There's nothing that compares. There's nothing that makes you think and go, wow, that was really cool. This movie is elevated above its standard. If this were any other movie, it would just be a generic, okay, whatever, forget that. But because Predator took such effort and such care with what it was doing, that makes you mad. It does for me, anyway. Really, and that make you mad. It pisses you off. The original is so good and so careful in its execution. This movie is the complete opposite of it. And you may think, well, John, that movie sounds pretty bad. It also sounds like it could be really funny. There are a lot of movies that are like that. But nah, not this one. You can't tell because of how out of breath I am. But this movie just angered me. It pissed me off. It disappointed me. I felt like I wasted my time watching this movie. I didn't smile once. And sure, maybe you're more lighthearted than I am. And maybe you could get some fun out of this. I watched this with my dad and my brother. They seem to like it. But why risk it? Just why? The more times you watch this movie, the more times you give credit to bad work. I don't think we should do that. I don't want to talk about this movie anymore. This movie made me fucking mad to watch. Don't watch it ironically. Don't watch it because you think it might be fun to make fun of. Just don't. Wondering what I think of this movie. It fucking sucks. Thanks for watching. If you like that video, well, that is good news for you because there are a lot more to watch. And if you want to watch even more in the future, you can go down below this here video and you can click a few buttons. I'm not going to tell you what those buttons are because I think you know what those buttons are, and I know you don't want me to say it. But if you click those buttons, you'll find more videos in the future. If you feel like it, of course. I can't really make you do anything. For I am just a man on a small TV, sometimes known as a computer. But what do you all think? Do you like this movie? Do you think I'm a fool and I do not know what I'm talking about? Put down in the comments and you can let me know. And make sure to share this video with other people who you know disagree with my opinion. Because after all, you gotta spread the word. Anyway, that's about all I got, so if you will excuse me, I need to get back to breakfast, so later.